Peace, peace, beautiful people. It is I, your friendly neighborhood Imah X. Let me just go ahead and get this adjusted. Bear with me, bear with me. I appreciate y'all. How has everyone been? I know it's been a minute. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a dope beat to step to. But, you know, hopefully you guys have been enjoying yourselves, having a wonderful summer. Like, I hope everybody's summer was like all of the good things, because you know it's summer. It's supposed to be fun. So I hope everybody is feeling like, you know, recharged and reset, and ready to go into autumn. You know, the season of harvest, the season where all the seeds that we have sown kind of come to fruition. So yeah, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna go grab the Palo Santo. Gratitude. Oh, oh, oh no, avalanche. Okay. All right. Here we go. Now we're in business. Now we're cooking with grease. Okay. So how is everyone doing today? Hope everybody's having a wonderful Sunday. Gone ahead and got my little Palo Santo, and we're gonna go ahead and take this time to there we go, get centered, literally in the frame, but then also get centered. We're gonna use the Palo Santo to anoint the space for the energy of ritual. Let's go ahead and get a good burn going. Ooh. It's really interesting that the flame is like not, there we go. All right. So we got Palo Santo going. We're gonna go ahead and use our handy dandy tuning fork and just kind of attune the energies. All right, so everybody take a deep breath and make sure y'all can hear that. Do it a couple more times. And one more again. There we go. That was a good one. Excellent. All right. So without further ado, we are going to go ahead and get into it. So I'm gonna work with a couple of decks today. First, I'm gonna start off with the Moonology Manifestations deck. I like this deck a lot when it comes to just dealing with different celestial events and energies. So we're gonna go ahead and do a quick 3 shuffles and see what messages our ancestors, the Most High, various deities, and angels have for us. Orishas, you know, any pantheon that you resonate with. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a 3-card pull with this guy. So we got 1, 2, 3, and I'll set this aside, and if I feel so inclined, we might check the energies on the bottom of the deck as well. But all right, so first we have last quarter moon in Pisces. Talk less, feel more. Okay, so I think that this is an excellent energy to talk about for the fall time. It is a time, as much as it is a time of reaping, it is also a time of shedding and releasing. You know, at some point, if you live in a hemisphere where it does that, the trees are going to be starting to release their leaves. You know, it's just generally a time of cooling down. So I feel like talk less, feel more is definitely preparing us for the winter season. Because a lot of manifestation has to do with speaking things into existence, and that's one of the themes of this deck. But beyond that, at some point, the work has been done, the seeds have been sown, and you're more required to feel and get in tune with the frequency, the energetic frequency that you're trying to cultivate, more so than talking about it. And also, you know, there's something to be said for moving in silence. There's something to be said for keeping a certain amount of things close to your chest, close to the vest, and just kind of showing more so than talking. Feeling into the energies that you want to align with, and just being more in tune with our feelings in general, because this is a culture that is very much focused on cerebral. Lots of social media is focused on like, hey, what do you have to say? And less energy is devoted to how do you feel? Like, how does this make you feel? And to be able to hold space for that, I feel is very powerful. So I like that as a first message to come out. And let's see what message number 2 would be. New moon in Sagittarius, focus on the positive. That is also an excellent card for, you know, the equinox. The change of seasons can be, you know, as I was saying, we're coming out of summer and everybody's like, yay, summer, you know, spring, like it's warmer out, there's more things going on. And there can be kind of a downtick in energy when it comes to moving into the fall, because, you know, it's starting to get cooler, people are doing less outdoor events, people are getting together less and less. And also with the holidays approaching, not everyone has a good relationship with the holidays, whether that's because of, you know, like issues with their families or even people passing. I know the holidays can be a triggering time, and as we're moving into that season, and also, you know, Halloween, spooky season, I really like the message to focus on the positive, because it can be very easy to, you know, kind of fall into like, you know, a little bit of seasonal depression. We're getting less sunlight, which is incredibly important. Vitamin D is incredibly important when it comes to just our energy and overall well-being, and the sun is an excellent source for it. So making sure that as we're feeling more, we're focusing on our positive feelings. We're focusing on gratitude and the things that we have more so than the things that we don't have, because it can be very easy to, you know, fall into mindsets of lack. But we're in harvest season. Like if we were farmers back in the day, this would be like a very lit time of year. And shout out to all the people who do still farm and do still harvest and work with the earth. You know, we wouldn't have green things and, you know, veggies and fruits and stuff to eat without you guys. So yeah, super grateful for everyone who does whatever work in this reality. But yeah, this would be a time of celebration if we were back in, you know, like slightly more ancient times where we all had a more direct relationship with the land. Because, you know, harvest time was like literally is the time of abundance, like cornucopia, like, you know, is a word that means like a large variety, and it comes from, you know, just the harvest season. And so focusing on the positive, focusing on the things that we do have and being immensely grateful for them. I'm not the biggest fan of Thanksgiving as a holiday because of, you know, its ties to indigenous people and, you know, all of that jazz. But outside of that, the concept of itself of being thankful, generally gathering, being thankful for a meal, being thankful for the love that we all are privy to, whether it's even just self-love or, you know, the love that we feel from the divine and the creator or our ancestors. All of that is incredibly important and incredibly powerful. I know that it can be easy to, you know, feel a bit dejected if you don't have community in the way that you would necessarily like at this point in time. But I think it's important to be mindful of being grateful for what we do have, even if it's just as simple as, like I said, self-love. You have you at the end of the day, and nobody can love you like you can, except for maybe the divine. So let's go ahead and move into card number 3. Ooh, last quarter moon in Leo, lighten up. Yeah, I think I love these all in conjunction. And I one of my favorite things about doing these type of readings is when you get all of the cards and you can kind of see the total message. So it's like focus on the positive and then like also lighten up with it. As I was saying, summer is kind of the time that everybody thinks of as like lit and fun and everything, but fall can be, autumn can be just as fun. I know that when I lived in the Northeast, one of my favorite things was to see, like, you know, the trees change colors into all their cool, like, orangey red hues and so forth. I wish that my light setting had something in there. The most I could do was like this kind of yellowish light, but yeah, lighten up. It can be easy to, as I was saying, with the seasons changing, kind of fall into these heavier energies, especially with, you know, like Halloween coming up, and that's all like very much a focus on kind of some of the darker aspects. And I'm all about balance, so there's nothing wrong with acknowledging those darker aspects, but lighten up, like whether that's, you know, getting together with some folks and throwing a bonfire, whether it's just you throwing a bonfire, whether it's, you know, I personally am I'm more of a cider person than a pumpkin spice person. So whether you want to get you some cider, some pumpkin spice, like treat yourself and focus on the positives. And it doesn't always have to be something grand and a huge gesture in order for it to be valid. It can be as simple as, you know, treating yourself to a little pumpkin, little, maybe even like, you know, carving a little jack-o'-lantern happy face. You know, it could all be so simple. And as we decide to feel more, you know, lighten up the energies that you're feeling. It can be very easy to kind of, as we focus on feelings, because of just some of the messages that we get from society as far as, you know, consumerism, always making you feel like you need this, you need that. Why don't you have this? If you don't have this, people won't like you. Like, that's nonsense. At the end of the day, you have everything you need, and the divine infinitely provides as long as you are receptive to receiving. So yeah, lighten up, focus on some of the more beautiful aspects of life, whether that's spending time in nature, whether that's, you know, I personally like the fall because it's like jacket and boot season. Even though I will wear boots whenever, I will wear boots all year round. I have been missing like jacket weather. I have been missing like sweater weather. I have been missing, you know, my flannels and whatnot. So it's nice to be able to diversify and focus on the positive and lighten up the energies, because one of the things about manifestation, which once again is the theme of this deck, is very much you have to, there's a scientific term called resonance, where if something is vibrating and you have something else that is on a similar frequency or the same frequency, and it's vibrating next to each other, then the energy will transfer. And that's a good concept to link with manifestation, because if you are vibrating at a frequency, you will literally draw experiences of that frequency to you. So if you're vibrating high and you're rocking out in a space of joy and gratitude, then the universe will send you more experiences that feel joyous and more things to be grateful for. And if you're vibrating on a frequency of love, the universe will definitely send you more love, whether that's in the form of, someone doing a kind gesture, someone having a kind word for you. It can all be so simple, and you'd be surprised what radiating from your inner world can really do for your outer reality. We are very much taught that, like, in order to change our outward reality, we have to change things in our outward reality. However, I have Michael Jackson as right here is my little workstation. It's where I do my music. It's where I do my readings and everything. And MJ is a big influence because a lot of his music had spiritual undertones, and specifically the song Man in the Mirror. Take a look at yourself and make the change. Once you begin to change your mindset and your habits and your perspective, the way that you see things, you'll be very, very pleasantly surprised for how reality meets you where you are. You'll be very surprised with how reality meets you with where you are. There's tons of ancient wisdoms that say, our thoughts create and manifest our reality. So if you are constantly, focusing on the negative, then you are more likely to draw in negative experiences to you. But talk less, feel more into the lighter energies. So I'm going to go ahead and pull 2 more cards. Okay, so we have full moon in Taurus, detoxify. And I think that is an excellent, follow up to lighten up, because it's like, well, how do I lighten up? How do I lighten up if I am, kind of just inundated with certain negative frequencies? If every time you go on your timeline, people are, it's the gender war, and it's drama, it's this and it's that. And it's like, well, detoxify and take that however you need to, from whichever input you would like to focus on, whether you want to detoxify your social media, whether that means deleting people who are constantly bringing nonsense to your feed, because I'm good for that. You get I used to give you multiple tries, but now you get like one time to say some nonsense on my timeline and you're gone. Because life is too short. Life is too short for me to be scrolling. And now just because you have a negative opinion, I have to have that bouncing around in my brain. No, detoxify. Bye. You can take that toxicity. I'm not trying to tell you what you have to do with your toxicity. I'm just saying I don't want to see it. So I'm not going to come on your status and argue with you and be like, oh, don't be posting this. Listen, it is your prerogative. You can do what you want to do. It's your prerogative. But my prerogative is to not have to see that nonsense. Detoxify also speaks to what we eat. Summer can be a big time for barbecues and lots of kind of heavier foods, and even this season can be a time of heavy foods. So you want to make sure that you're balancing out your intake with detoxifying, whether you want to do a fast and detoxify your energy that way, whether you want to use an herbal cleanse. I know that there are all sorts of different means that you can use, whether you want to do like ritualistic baths, whether you want to do like salt water, Epsom salt, whether you want to do, you know, diatomaceous earth or clay. There are, the universe and the divine has provided infinite ways for us to cleanse ourselves, whether it's as simple as just like standing out in the rain. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that if you live someplace where it's cold, but if you do, you know, just make sure you come in and warm up, you know what I'm saying, dry off, make sure you put on some clean, warm clothes at the end of it. But yeah, detoxify is an excellent way to lighten up, because it's very easy to say like, oh, just focus on the positive. Oh, just, you know, lighten up. But it's like, how do I do this? And detoxifying. Also, you know, it's about to be spooky season, so I know everybody's big on like horror movies and so forth. And I'm not trying to tell nobody not to like their horror movies. I'm not trying to tell nobody that they can't like their true crime dramas, or like, you know, their gore, or, you know, their zombie flicks, or whatever it is you get into. This is a judgment-free zone. But life is all about balance. So you want to make sure that you are balancing out your intake with a certain amount of positive as well. If you're watching things that are, you know, kind of a darker spiritual nature, you want to make sure that you're balancing that out with more lighthearted things. And whether that's as simple as a comedy, or, you know, a movie from your childhood that, you know, gets you in a space of nostalgia. Not saying that you have to like always be on like your like super meditative, I eat nuts but leaves and berries, like, you know what I'm saying? Because like, I'm not a vegan. I respect vegans. I respect everybody. I choose to work with a more balanced diet and just moderate my intake, and make sure that when I am intaking meats and different things, that it's from a good source and so forth. And also, you know, like, praying over your food can be also an excellent way of detoxifying it, and making sure that it is operating for the highest degree of nourishment for your body. So yeah, detoxifying is an excellent way to lighten up. All right. Reveal what needs to be seen. I feel like that is also giving us kind of a direction on how to lighten up, because a lot of times when the things that block us from being in higher vibrational states are old energies, whether that is traumas that we're holding on to from our past, whether that's, you know, unspoken things with people in our lives, whether that's things about ourselves that we refuse to face. Reveal what needs to be seen is an excellent tool. And even if that is just journaling, not saying that you have to go out confronting people and, you know, getting closure and all of that, but just like being real with yourself, and, you know, sitting with your feelings, feeling more, and being true to those and holding space for them, and, you know, not really judging yourself, but more so having space for yourself. I know I was talking about, like, you know, things from your childhood, but like, you know, sitting with your inner child, and just, you know, whether you want to write a letter to them or whatnot, there's tons of different ways that you can do self-examination. Back to the Michael Jackson thing, start with the person in the mirror and honestly look at yourself and begin to make those changes. And it can be difficult to do that, because it's easier to stay stuck in our ways and to stay stuck in these energetic loops, these ruts, these patterns, these cyclical cycles, you know what I'm saying, in terms of stimulus reaction, reaction stimulus. And if you're constantly, I was having this conversation the other day with someone, if you're constantly out here reacting, that's not the same as acting with intention. So a lot of times just sitting with yourself can be a chance to reveal what needs to be seen. Therapy is an excellent way. Talking to, your friends, or, people in your life who have your best interests at heart and whom you trust is an excellent way to see things about ourselves that we might not, because certain things come up in conversation and people may ask you certain questions and it might make you think of something in a way that you had never thought about it before, and now you're just like, oh wow, I never even thought about that. So all right, we'll do one more card from this deck and then we'll move on to the healing oracle. So we have first quarter moon in Capricorn. Unleash your kindest self. And I think that is the end result of all of these things. If you look, I kind of have the cards kind of set up in like a little bit of a pyramidal fashion, where the energies build upon themselves, because that's really how life works. Nothing occurs in an echo chamber. As much as I was talking about these cycles, things are layered. Reality is layered. So once you can get into the space of feeling more and focusing on the positive and lightening up by detoxifying and revealing what needs to be seen, you can then release and unleash your kindest self, which is a blessing to you and to everyone around you. It's a blessing to you because when you are in a space of feeling abundant, of, feeling light, your natural inclination is to be kind. Your natural inclination is to pour from your overflow. But once again, if you have an empty cup, it can be hard to be kind. If you don't, like, in a very simple just example, if you have an abundance of time to get to work and you're driving, you might let that person in traffic. But if you are, you don't have a lot of time, you've, procrastinated, and now you're like stuck with like rushing. Now you're going to be like, no, I'm not finna let you in. And you're going to be mad at them for even like suggesting it. Like, don't you know I got places to be? And it can be very much like that with life. Like, don't you know I have things to do? I need this energy for me. And so that's fine. And also part of unleashing your kindest self is being kind to yourself first and foremost, because if you aren't treating you well, if your inner dialogue is constantly beating you up and you're focusing on the negative things that you're doing, and you're coming down really hard on yourself and you're not lightening up, and you're eating foods that make you energetically dense, or you're partaking in media or conversations that just put negativity into your reality. We see so many things just on a day-to-day that are just like, oh, this person's cheating with this person, and and it's just like, that can definitely make you kind of look at your own reality with like a skeptical eye. And now when you meet people, your first inclination is to look for, well, how are you on some nonsense, as opposed to like, oh, like, hey, nice to meet you. Like, let me try to focus on what common ground we might have. So yeah, this is step-by-step instruction on how to unleash your kindest self. And that ripples out, just like the phrase, each one teach one. And they say, like, you never know how much like you smiling at someone can change their day or brighten up their mood. Like, kindness and love as a frequency is really love is definitely the highest vibration, because it becomes self-propagating in that when you're kind to someone, that can lead to them being kind to someone. And then, like the ripples in a pool, it'll spread out in an exponential kind of fashion. And we take that for granted. We take for granted, you know, what a kind word can do, what a kind gesture can do for a person. So yeah, this is the first half of the reading. I'm very, very pleased with it. I can't decide whether I want to collect the cards or leave them. I think I'm going to leave them because the next messages might tie into that as well. And on the bottom of the deck, we have last quarter moon in Taurus, and there's a good amount of Taurus energy here. But it says, be proud of yourself. And that goes for wherever you are in this, even if you're just at the stage of being able to talk less and feel more, or whether you're at the stage of, you know, focusing on the positive, or whether you're at the stage of lightening up or detoxifying or revealing what needs to be seen. Be proud of yourself, because a lot of people never take these steps, and a lot of people never do any sort of critical self-examination. We've all come across those people who are like the same as they were like in high school, and it's just like, oh, you haven't evolved and grown, like your thoughts haven't changed, you haven't changed. And you should be proud of yourself, whether you are near the finish line or whether you are just taking off, because every step is valid. Every point in the journey is worth celebrating. We get very much caught up on like the end goal as like, oh, well, when I get to the end, then I'll celebrate and then I'll give myself a break. But it's like, no, be proud of yourself for taking the steps. Be proud of yourself even if you just took a step back, that you even want to keep continuing to persevere and still putting your best foot forward. Life is full of ebbs and flows. It is not always going to be rainbows and sunshine, but you should be proud of yourself for how you deal with the bad days just as much as how you deal with the good days. And even if you want to like be like, oh man, well, you know, I binge ate the other day, or I binge drank, or I watched a bunch of stuff that I knew wasn't good for me, or whatever your negative coping mechanism might be, cut yourself some slack, because at least you did it for that many hours instead of like 18 hours. I know that I used to struggle with depression, and that can very much be kind of like a thing that ebbs and flows. And one of the things that helps me was, instead of beating myself up when I had like a day where I wasn't really feeling optimal, I would just be proud of myself that I cut it to 1 day or 2 days as opposed to like a week or months like it could have been at points in the past. So you have to be proud of yourself first and foremost, because at the end of the day, you're doing your best. If you're here watching this message, you're definitely a person who is doing your best, because you wouldn't seek out any sort of spiritual guidance if you didn't have an interest in being your best self and putting your best foot forward. So be proud of yourself. Your ancestors are proud of you. So many things had to align for you to be here. You are not an accident. You are a divine gift from the universe, and you should be proud of that. So yeah. All right, let's get into this healing oracle. All right. Oh, make sure we get all the cards out. We want to make sure we're working with a full deck when it comes to being able to receive these messages. So we're going to just do 2 shuffles for this guy, and we're going to get 2 cards. Ancestors, Most High, Spirit Guides, Angels, what messages do you have for us? All right. Move some of these cords out the way. All right, so for the first card, we have affirmation. You guys see that? Nice autumnal color there. But I listen to myself and acknowledge my needs. I assert myself and retain my power. I am brave and gentle. I don't have to be afraid of others. I respect myself and am respected by others. I feel like that goes and ties into the message of being your kindest self and also revealing what needs to be seen. Because as I was saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. So part of revealing what needs to be seen and talking less and feeling more is being able to listen to yourself and what your body and what your soul and what your heart and what your mind all need in order to function at an optimal level, and then provide those things for yourself. As we said, being your kindest self starts with being kind to yourself. And if you don't listen to you, how could you expect anyone else to listen to you or care about what you have to say or what you feel? So you can't be out here gaslighting yourself and then getting mad when other people do it to you as well. It's people a lot of times can be reflections of our own inner world. So you have to listen to yourself and acknowledge your needs, whether that is to detoxify or whatever it is you need at the moment. Asserting yourself and retaining your power is also a big part of being kind to yourself. Good boundaries, how you say good fences make good neighbors. Good boundaries make for good relationships. It's one of the kindest things that you can do to yourself is love yourself enough to protect yourself and not just allow people to treat you any old type of way. Think of you as if you were your younger self, would you want somebody to talk to your younger self the way that you talk to yourself sometimes? If you were a child, would you want someone to speak to a child in that way, around you? Would you want to let people do the things to you that you let them, would you let them do that to your kid? You know what I'm saying? A lot of times it could be easier to protect things outside of ourselves. And I have been guilty of this because, as a person who was raised with a certain amount of resilience and also just knowing my own inner strength, I used to be I can bear it. So it's whatever, I don't really care. But at the end of the day, no, the loving yourself is loving yourself enough to say no and to assert yourself even when it's difficult, because it's not always easy, and that can be, from interpersonal relationships to your job. There's a lot of pressures on us to kind of just go along with whatever is being presented to us and just kind of take whatever you can get, because you should just be glad that you got that. And you can be thought arrogant if you have certain higher standards for yourself. That is one of the things that this reality loves to do. If you have certain standards, it's well, who do you think you are to deserve this, that, and the third? And it's I'm me, I am that I am. And you definitely should be able to receive what you give out. If you give nothing but respect, it's not outlandish to not allow people to disrespect you. And even if you have to assert yourself to do that, a lot of times another thing that is big in this reality is people will throw stones and hide their hands, and then when you react, now you're the bad guy, but nobody sees what you're reacting to. Everybody just sees you're reacting. And there's a certain amount of assertive energy that can just be oh, how dare you be assertive? You're supposed to be kind of oh, just and it's no, you have every right to stand up for yourself. My name is Imah X. That's that's an allusion to Malcolm X, peace and powers to the ancestor. But no, like you don't get to just treat me any type of way and I'm just supposed to lay down and take it. That's one of the, the principles of Islam is like, no, you have a right to defend you and yours. You have a right to, because God did not, the Most High, the divine, the universe, whatever relation you have with a higher power in your reality and by whatever name you call it, it did not put you here to be abused by yourself or by anyone else. That's not what it's hitting for. It's not at all. So like, I am brave and gentle. And this is the thing, no one says that when you are being assertive that you have to be harsh with it. It doesn't have to be harsh, but it does have to be resolute. And they always say bravery isn't necessarily the absence of fear. It's what you do despite feeling fear and despite feeling unsure. It's not easy to, stand up to your boss. And, there are a lot of people who are petty. There are a lot of workplaces where if you assert yourself, then you'll get kind of like some punishment on the back end. But bravery is doing what's right despite the potential consequences. That's integrity also, is just doing what's right just because it's what's right. And whether that's standing up for yourself, asserting your boundaries in a gentle way. You don't got to be yelling and screaming at people at the top of your voice, but you could just be like, hey, I didn't appreciate that. And I would really be super grateful if you would not continue to do that. Like, it doesn't have to be super confrontational, cussing people out. We are shown that is how you be assertive. You got to be like aggressive, like aggressive equals assertive, but that's not, those aren't necessarily equivalent. You can be super assertive and super gentle at the same time. I don't have to be afraid of others. Once again, that ties into, just worrying about the consequences and how people are going to react to you being assertive, to you establishing boundaries. Because, you can lose friends that way. If they, they always say the people who get upset at your boundaries are the people who benefited from you not having any. But anybody who gets upset at you loving on yourself in a way that says, I love myself too much to allow you to treat me this way, probably doesn't have your best interest at heart in the first place. And they're probably not somebody who you should even want in your reality. So if they choose to like no longer deal with you, or based on the fact that you're being assertive in a gentle way, if they choose to take that like as an affront, then that says much more about them than it does about you, beloved. It says much more about them than it does about you. So don't internalize that. That is their deal. That is their trip. And let them go find somebody who will let them treat them any type of way. Listen. What's that song? Sweet things are made of these. Who am I to disagree? It's like some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be used by you. Some of them want to abuse you. Some of them want to be abused. Like there are tons of people out here who want to be abused. So like let them go find them and it'll be a match made in heaven. People like it. There's someone for everyone out here in terms of friend groups and all types of things. So don't necessarily feel like someone not wanting to interact with you is necessarily a negative on your part. A lot of times rejection can be protection. And I respect myself and am respected by others. Perfect culmination to that, because it's like, it starts with the man in the mirror. You have to respect yourself enough to respect others. And 9 times out of 10, what you will find is once you put a boundary in place, people will fall in line with it. Because this is the thing. People, there's a phrase that's a common phrase. It's like people will do what you let them. People will do what you let them. And that means that if you stop letting them, sometimes they'll just stop doing it. And they'll be like, oh, I was only doing that because like you was cool with it. But if you're not cool with it, I'll adjust. And it can really be that simple. Also, a lot of times people might not know how you're feeling. So that's why it's important to assert yourself and your boundaries in a gentle way, because it's like when you respect yourself, people can see it in you. It is a frequency that you give off. It is a way that you carry yourself. It is a way that you speak about yourself. It is the environments that you allow yourself to be in. And all of that whether it can be seen by the naked eye or not is something that can be felt. So once you start to respect yourself, other people will start to respect you as well, or they will get the getting. And it's really that simple. It could really all be that simple, beloved. Like, it could. So let's move into our second card here. Open to the universe. Excellent heart chakra color there. And it says, I am discovering my worth and my abilities. I have confidence in my value and my potential. I reclaim my inner power. I accept and love myself completely. Thus, I am open to the divine light of the universe. Won't she do it? Like, I do so enjoy. I've honestly missed this. I've honestly missed this in doing these readings. And yeah, so let's just get into it. Because it's really beautiful how everything kind of coalesces and comes together to form a complete picture and a complete message. And I'm so, so grateful that if you're tuning in at any point in time, that you chose to receive from me. And I hope that you find this message to be nourishing in all of the best ways. But I am discovering my worth and my abilities. It's hard to have boundaries if you feel like you don't have, if you feel like you aren't worth protecting. If you feel like that's like, you wouldn't put a door, like you wouldn't put something not valuable in a safe. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a certain amount of boundaries that it's tied to your perception of your own worth. Because if you don't feel like you're worth much, then yeah, you will kind of feel like you just need to take whatever you can get, because it's like, who am I to be asking for whatever? And this is the thing. We all are so, so, so unique. And there's the phrase that if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then that fish will feel inadequate its whole life. So like, you can't let your worth be tied to external things outside of you, or even certain abilities, because you're good at something. Everybody's good at something. There are things within our society that are lauded as like, oh, if you're good at this, then like that'll make you popular, or that'll make you cool. But this is the thing, like, everybody's good at something, and it takes all kinds to make a world. Like, as much as like people, like, certain people look down on like maids or like maintenance men, like, we all enjoy when things are really clean and when things are fixed and operating well. And if that's what you do, if you clean really well, then like I appreciate you. I don't know about anybody else, but I appreciate you. Like, you have to discover what it is you are good at. And that, once again, starts with looking at yourself in the mirror and just trying different things, not being afraid of what others are going to think about you, what they're going to say about you. You might try something and discover you're not the best at it. That's perfectly cool. You might try something and discover that you are good at it. You might try something and discover that you're not necessarily the best at it, but it just brings you joy, and that's super valid as well. Like, it can be so easy to get into external validation as the benchmark, whereas how you feel on the inside is really the gauge that you should use for your experience. Because it's your experience at the end of the day. It's nobody else has to live your life but you. Nobody else has to walk in your shoes. So like, be true to yourself at the end of the day. I have confidence in my value and potential. So like, when it also comes to abilities, just because you aren't the best at something today doesn't mean that you don't have the potential to be the best at it later on. Like, all it takes is for you to stick to certain things. Like, You know, there's a classic example of like Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. He did. He did. That's not like that actually happened. Like, I know that coach probably is like, oh, I'm so glad he tried out again. Like, you know what I'm saying? But that's a thing that actually happened. And if he would have been dejected and been like, oh man, I guess I'm just not any good at basketball, then like we would not have one of the greatest basketball players of like all time. And like, shout out to all the LeBron fans. But like no one can argue that Michael Jordan is not one of the greatest. Not gonna say he's the GOAT, but he's in the top 10. He's Hall of Fame level. And we would have been deprived of that if he would have let that setback kind of just derail him. So you have to know your potential. You have to know your potential. Like Deion Sanders has been in the news a lot recently for his coaching and everything. And even though they took a loss yesterday to Oregon, their team still has a lot of potential, and they're still doing way, way better than they were this year last time. So as easy as it can be to like write them off or get dejected, sometimes a loss can make you see things in your weak points and make you come back stronger. Sometimes failing at something can allow you to see, okay, this is what I did wrong. This is what I can improve upon. Okay, little less here. It's like when you're cooking something and you try a recipe for the first time, you know, it might not come out perfect, but with the trial and error, the second time, you'll be like, okay, I did this last time and it tasted a little bit too this. So maybe, you know, I'll mix it more. I'll add less salt. Like I'll do whatever you need to do, but just understand that you have infinite potential as long as you put your mind to it. Most things can be achieved in this reality. I would even say anything can be achieved in this reality as long as your heart is in the right place and you're going about it for the right reasons. So I reclaim my inner power. And we had a line about that. It's like, I assert myself and retain my power. And this one is like, I reclaim my inner power. So a lot of this reality can make us feel disempowered. It can make us feel like we don't really have a lot of say when it comes to outcomes, when it comes to our reality. Like we're beholden to the circumstances of our birth, or like, you know, the things that we have been through define us. And as much as those things do affect us, lotuses grow from the mud. And if you just looked at the mud and was like, oh, nothing good will ever come from that, you would, and never came back to look at that pond again, you would miss when the lotus like breaks through the surface and blossoms into its full, like beautiful self. And the same is true of you. Like you have to reclaim your inner power and know that you are the architect of your own reality. You are the architect of your own destiny. You can follow your dreams. You can live the life that you want. I'll use myself as another example again. I got to a point where I was like, I'm kind of tired of winter. I'm kind of tired of it. Like I've done like 30 winters. That's a lot of winters. Some of those had blizzards. Like shout out to the blizzard of 96. Like winter is beautiful. And if you've never seen snow, I would suggest that you definitely go and experience it. But there's also something to be said about living someplace tropical. And so I reclaimed my power instead of just being like, well, this is where I live. This is where all my family is. This is where I was born. Guess I'll just stay here forever because it's like the easiest thing to do. Like, no, I reclaimed my power. And I was like, no, I don't think this is for me. Not anymore. And years before I actually moved, I was like, I'm not doing this winter thing too much longer. Like, I actually started saying, like, this is going to be my last winter. Now, I had to experience one more winter after that, but I only had to do one more winter after I was like, no, after I decided, like, no, this is my last winter. So, like, you have way more power over your reality than you think. And I'm not going to, you know, act like it's been all sunshine and rainbows in terms of the transition and in terms of finding my footing and in terms of finding my community. But did I die? No, y'all, I'm not a ghost. sitting here doing this. So at the end of the day, I am still here. I am in a good enough space within myself to be able to share these messages with you. I have a roof over my head. I have food to eat, and I'm super duper grateful for all of that. And it comes from a space of knowing your potential, knowing your abilities, knowing what you are capable of, and rocking out with that, and not allowing anybody to steal your joy or make you feel less than. I accept and love myself completely. Yes, because if you don't, who will? And this is the thing. No one is perfect. No one is perfect. We all have our flaws. But berating yourself and coming down hard on yourself is not the best way to instigate change. It's better to inspire change than to, kind of punish someone into it, because it's like, positive reinforcement versus negative reinforcement. Like positive reinforcement in like pretty much every study that has ever been done has been shown to be a much more effective tool. And as much as we use that in terms of our outside reality, like it should start with you. You have to love yourself completely, because as I said, the Most High didn't make any mistakes with any of us. And as much as your potential and your abilities are necessary, your flaws are also necessary. One of my favorite books from my childhood, A Wrinkle in Time, one of the things that the spiritual beings who come to guide them on this journey share is with the girl Meg, is when they're giving everybody like the tools that they're going to need for the journey, they tell her, they said, I give you your flaws. Because, yeah, it can be a flaw if you are a stubborn individual. But the flip side of that is a certain amount of perseverance. It means that you are stubborn. Yeah, you can be stubborn when it comes to like changing your mind to something good. But you can also be stubborn in the face of hardship and be like, I'm not going to let this beat me. I'm not going to give up. Like, this ain't nothing. Like, so everything has a flip side. Like everything has a flip side. It's not necessarily good to have a temper, but they also say that your anger is the part of you that is seeking to protect you. And when you become angry, instead of like kind of sitting in it and dwelling in it, you should use it kind of as like an alarm system to be like, okay, something's off here. And then take the steps to change it so that you don't have to be angry anymore. And you have to accept yourself and love yourself, because you don't have to, but it is a beautiful experience to accept yourself and to love yourself completely, because all parts of you are valid. And even if there are things that you are seeking to heal about yourself, they're still valid and they were still necessary, even, in terms of coping mechanisms and so forth. And, negative traits that we may have, they developed in a point in time where that was the best way that we knew how to handle and deal with whatever was happening. And so you have to forgive yourself. You have to love yourself and understand that, as I said before, we're all doing the best that we can. Especially if you're here. If you're here, you're definitely doing the best that you can. This is probably one of the best things that you can do to yourself. Do to yourself and for yourself. Not to toot my own horn, but... And last sentence. Thus, I am open to the divine light of the universe. The universe can't bless you if you aren't receptive to it. The universe... Like, what they say, you can't receive with a closed fist. So you have to be open in order to be able to be poured into, in order to be able to receive good things. You have to be in a space of even mentally allowing for the fact that good things could happen to you and for you. I don't know whether this is going to cut off at an hour. I have like a feeling that it probably will. So I'm going to, close that out here. What a wonderful way to close that out. Excellent space to close that out. Being open to the universe. I'm so, so grateful for all of you. I hope everyone has an excellent autumn. May all of the seeds that you have sown come back abundantly and overflow in all the fruitfulness. May your cup runneth over. May you just be divinely blessed. May the Most High and your ancestors give you all of the things that you deserve. And you deserve excellent, beautiful, amazing, wonderful, insert positive adjective things. So it has been your friendly neighborhood, Imah X. This is Kinetic Media, and this has been the autumnal riff. Oh, we didn't cut off. We didn't cut off. Am I gonna do one more card? I think I'm gonna do one more card since we didn't cut off. All right, this is the bonus. Shout out to everybody who cut it off and was like, oh yeah, no, it's over. All right, so we got the last card, which is gonna be wisdom. And it says, God has a plan for me. I live here now, knowing beauty is to come. I don't force things to happen faster than the universe has decided for me. I learn from my experiences, take small steps in faith, and succeed thanks to all my efforts. That is an excellent harvest season message. Succeed thanks to all my efforts. Like, yeah, reaping and sowing. This is the season of reaping. So may you reap all the fruits of the things that you have sown. May you reap all of the things that the divine has for you in divine timing. I know it can be very easy to get caught up on our own human timelines and be like, this isn't happening fast enough. I'm good for that. I used to think I was hella patient until I started having to operate on divine timing. And I was just like, oh, I'm patient when I know how long I have to be patient for. But it's much more difficult to be patient when it's just like a kind of indefinite patience. That's one of the good things about the seasons and so forth. Because it's like, no, pretty much when winter is going to come, when winter is going to be over, when spring is going to come. Like, all of that is the beauty of this reality. And it allows us to sow seeds and so forth, and to know like, okay, it takes about roughly this long for this seed to sprout. Whereas, there are certain seeds that you plant that are going to sprout faster than those other seeds. And it's all happening in the time that it is supposed to. And all of it is perfect in its own unique way. And yeah, that's a beautiful thing to realize and to align with, is just knowing that everything is everything and what is meant to be will be, because God has a plan for you. Knowing the beauty that is to come. It can be very easy to be like pessimistic in this reality and think that I've experienced negative things, so that must mean that like more negativity is to come. And a lot of people block their blessings that way. A lot of people run away from good things, whether that is jobs, people, places, because they're waiting for the other shoe to drop, in that phraseology. They're waiting for the negativity. So sometimes they'll be like, I'ma just sabotage it before the negativity comes, because then at least the ending was on my terms. And it's like, no, you have to, part of being open to the universe is knowing the beauty that is to come, and knowing that the divine has a plan for you, has a plan for all of us. And learning from our experiences and taking small steps, we go through sometimes negative things not to put us in a space of like, oh, only every time I do this, then this is going to happen. But it's like, no, just learn from it. And whether the thing that you learn is something as simple as like, okay, well, this person was not the best for me, like, or this job was not the best for me. Like, I know now next time to choose better. Or whether it can be as like I said with the cooking, okay, put a little bit too much pepper. A little bit too much pepper. It's a little spicy for my taste. And maybe next time, now you just learn to put less pepper. It doesn't have to be like every time I make this, I'm not going to make it because the last time it was spicy and I'm probably going to fuck up and make it spicy again. Like, no, boo-boo. No, you have power. Reclaim your power and understand that you can decide. You can experiment. It's choose your own adventure novel. It doesn't have to necessarily be what it was. So I'm really gonna close it out now, but I think that was like I'm so glad that we did that last little card pull. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys kind of the structure that we have here and how everything aligned so beautifully. Don't you agree? Don't you agree? So I hope that, as I said before, you have a blessed equinox. I hope that you use these energies well. I hope that you take advantage of the upcoming moon cycles. I know we're about to enter eclipse season, so whether you're using the new moon to bring in more positive things or the full moon to kind of release things, I hope that you spend your time sowing good seeds so that you may reap them in the future. And, you know, be well, be blessed. Namaste. I love y'all. I really, really do. Anybody who tuned in or will tune in at any given point in time, I'm just so grateful, because you could be anywhere else in the world, but you're here with me. You know what I'm saying? You're here with me. So I hope that this message finds you well. Please leave a like, please leave a comment. Please share it with anybody who you think might find it enriching. I would love to read you guys' comments. I'm gonna get better as far as replying in real time. And yeah, like, super duper grateful. And if you found your way here from TikTok or however you know me, whether you know me from a personal life or whether you know me from music or whether you just know me from spirituality, like, everybody's welcome here. And I hope that you found something enriching in this. So it has been your friendly neighborhood Imah X, and it's kinetic. Be well, be blessed. How do I end this? Here we go.